have 7 o'clock, so good evening and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education on Monday, January 25th. And if you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Gibson, before we start the meeting this evening, I just want to take a quick moment to recognize that we lost a local legend this past Saturday. John Paul Lynch Sr. Passed away, and he was probably in more music halls of fame in the state of West Virginia than anyone I know. I know he was in Martinsburg for over 20 years, but we won't hold that against him. And then he was involved with both Shepherdstown Middle School, Harpers Ferry Middle School, and Jefferson High School. So I just want to just let him know that he will be missed in the community.
Although we feel, and we're very blessed to have his son continue that legacy, and certainly reach out to him and offer our condolences.
Absolutely. And Madam Superintendent, do you have any comments this evening?
No, first and foremost, thank you very much everyone for being flexible as we moved this meeting online because of impending weather. And for our follow-up meetings for the board, I am very happy to convey that we were able to negotiate our new Zoom programming, and that will accommodate a larger group of people and have some more dynamic features to it as we continue to do greater levels of community engagement. And we found we're getting so much higher levels of participation in the board meeting publicly with the Zoom features that we're really looking forward to being able to expand on that. So also looking forward this week to having students return. I think all of the teachers and the principals for a wonderful orientation day on Friday. Thank you so much to transportation, who as always did a phenomenal job. So thank you.
And Dr. Gibson, the plan is for that new Zoom format to roll out with our next regular meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So there'll be a new Zoom link and everything else that everybody will need to log on to. So if you have this one saved, it won't work anymore. We'll need to, and it'll be on the agenda, correct?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be on the agenda. It'll be on our website. It'll be posted on our door. It'll be everywhere.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. I have a couple comments. Is in the event that she put together for the community. I thought it was outstanding. And just a couple of questions. Is this the right time? This is the time when Dr. Gibson is speaking, right? So
it is, but as long as the questions are something that pertains to the agenda, that's
okay. I guess at what point can I request that things be placed on the agenda? Is this not a good time?
You mean you want to request that something gets placed on a future agenda?
Yeah.
You can make that request now, but we can't discuss it.
Okay. Well, I've asked several times in several ways for a clear policy on notifying board members of emergency board meetings, and the policy that the attorney sent me, that's the policy that our school board has. It's vague. It doesn't say how soon the board members should be notified for an emergency meeting, and it doesn't clarify who is supposed to notify the board members. And I feel that that's very important considering the last meeting. Not everybody was notified. So I just want to make sure that that's addressed, and maybe we could get a clear policy.
There is a policy, but we can't discuss that right now because
Right.
it's not on the agenda.
Okay. I would like to get it.
Dr. Joy, if you have something that you'd like on a future agenda, you can send Dr. Gibson and myself an email, and we'll make sure that we address it. Moving on to Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Ms. White. Do you have anything for us this evening?
I do. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know Dr. Gibson was speaking of our wonderful transportation department, so I'd like to start with highlighting that department this evening. I'm very pleased to report that the bus defect rate is 0.154. When typically you find one defect per bus. And when I say defect, it's something temporary that can be corrected, such as the bus needs swept. It might be some sort of minor mechanical issue. It can be any number of things. In fact, I think on his list, there are close to 300 things. And that is an excellent rate. It is up there. I haven't verified that it's best in the state, but if it's not, it's close. And they should be very applauded with the bus drivers and the mechanics for keeping such a very low defect rate. And they're almost through their bus fleet, with the newest buses being inspected last this year. So I expect that rate will lower just a bit more. We're in the middle with working with transportation and technology and assessing the usage at our Wi-Fi hotspots. Our thinking is that if we have hotspots that are hot and a lot of people are using, we'd like to keep those, and that we might also consider with some data-based decisions in abandoning Wi-Fi hotspots that aren't being used at all, or if there is a family or two sitting at those, offering them a Sprint hotspot that they could put in their home. We think that that would be a better use for the family if they could be at home versus coming to a hotspot and it's not a place that's getting crowded. So we'll be assessing that in the next couple of weeks, and we wanted you to know it. And speaking of hotspots, we have provided 228 families so far with hotspots, which are working very well in their homes for all our learners who've been on remote learning. And we're excited to be able to welcome some of those learners back with us. Technology is also focused on helping CNI build a repository of exemplary online teacher-created lessons. And they're continuing to work with CNI and committee on choosing a learning management system. They're in the middle of creating focus groups to develop an RFP, which will help us to select a learning management system. So that process is going very well. Additionally, we have posted jobs for 2 technicians. This is per our goals in technology this year that we're following along with for everyone. And we have developed and are on our 3rd meeting for the K2 in order to choose devices for K2. Those meetings are very productive. I've been sitting on those, and I'm excited to report they're making very good progress and making some good decisions toward choosing that device. In maintenance, I just want to speak a little bit. I know I keep updating you about the Jefferson High turf field. We're in the process now with movement on the turf field, even though you don't actually see progress. We are working with the DEP to get a stormwater permit. We're also working to work out drainage issues prior to putting the turf field down so that that won't be an issue once the turf field is laid. Brandon has also created a committee at Jefferson High School to work on design. So that is progressing very nicely. Our summer projects that we have slated are all on time. These are bond projects. I know we have 5 roof projects out there. We're addressing some brick issues at Blue Ridge, some carpeting. So we're working toward those goals so that we can make those summer projects. The tennis courts I want to address specifically, which is a bond project. Brandon did meet with a vendor on that project to get a professional opinion to make sure that there was no structural damage to the tennis courts. I'm very pleased to report there is not. So we'll be able to proceed with the resurfacing of those courts as planned. In child nutrition, I want to provide families with a reminder that we are operating under an extended waiver from the USDA, which provides free breakfast and lunch to all students through the end of the current academic school year. So I just want to remind them they won't be receiving lunch bills. If their status changes and they feel like they would qualify for free or reduced lunch, I encourage them to go ahead and keep updated applications, which are available through our child nutrition department, so that once that waiver ends, they're current with their free or reduced lunch status. We're going to continue to move between the remote meals and in-person meals as necessary. When the weather is inclement and we cannot get the meals on Tuesday, we're going to report out the next day that they will be delivered. So please stay tuned for those robocalls so you keep up with that. This week, once we get back in school, we'll be serving meals both remotely and for in-person students, because students won't be in a full week this week. We're starting at our 50%. Meal packs are available in each school zone from 9:30 to 10:30 on Tuesdays. We encourage families that need it to come and pick up food. And if you cannot, we encourage you to reach out to us, as always. Anyone who knows a family in need, please contact a school or contact me at the board office. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Joyce, we're involving people at Jefferson for the football field. Are we involving any of our tennis people in the tennis court resurfacing?
So far, we've had input from the principals for the resurfacing of the tennis courts. I know they've been very specific about what they'd like to have replaced. We are not yet to the point, Mark, we can involve them in the process, but we will be. Brandon Just was interested in checking to make sure there was no structural damage, and then he'll be able to move from there to create some room for committee and for input at each school.
Okay, so we'll be involving the coaches and other people in that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Number 4, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held January 11th, 2021, and the emergency meeting held January 14th, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from January 11th and January 14th, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Citizens' comments. I believe we have 2 citizens' comments this evening. Is that correct, Ms. Harner?
I don't.
That's correct. I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Harness.
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Thank you. All right. First up this evening, we have Bobby Block, and then followed by Jennifer Vigil. And just as a reminder that I'll set my timer for 3 minutes. Ms. Block, whenever you're ready. Ms. Block, you're muted right now. If you could unmute yourself. There you go.
Good evening again. These are difficult times, and there are a number of challenges we need to address on behalf of our children. In written testimony presented to the Board of Education in 2020, comments and pictures were submitted for the record. As an advocate for children for over 4 decades, as stated before, it's easier for me to speak from the heart. The children need our help. I appreciate you providing the community an opportunity to comment. I pray you listen with your open heart. Our children are watching. This is a time to rededicate ourselves in caring for children. to have the courage and share their needs. An electronic copy of the full text will be sent to the BoE. Major issues that will be addressed, which have been addressed before: the water hazard at North Jefferson, the pandemic challenges that increase the nutritional needs of children during COVID-19, and the navigation of online learning during the pandemic. I'm pleased that the BoE has taken steps to drain the water pooling on the school property. The BoE cannot deny that the water hazard at Jefferson existed. Even though the water is being drained, the toxics that accumulated in the stagnant water may still pose a dangerous threat to the children. The apparent sinkhole that created the pooling water still exists and continues to be a dangerous, toxic public nuisance. The pool could also be a receptor of the materials to produce mineral oil, such as formaldehyde, sulfur dioxide, lead, magnesium, arsenic, chemicals I can't even pronounce, and coal ash, which in turn can contaminate the drinking water. This legally and morally places Jefferson County BoE culpable. There are still further actions that are required. The soil and remaining water need to be tested for these toxics. The fact that the water has been pooling in front of North Jefferson for over a year is totally unacceptable and hazardous. This situation needs to be mitigated, whether it's due to problems with sewage or the establishment of a sinkhole.
That's your 3 minutes, but thank you very much for participating again this evening. Next up, we have Jennifer Vigil.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I come to you tonight as a parent of 2 children that receive in-person instruction and one that is part of GVA or JVA. As I've spoken on other occasions, I find it important that I continue to be that voice for my children. First, I cannot begin to tell you how disappointed I am in our Board of Ed members. We as a community vote to have you in place, and the disservice you recently have provided to our children and their education is unacceptable. To talk about all the what-if scenarios and what may or may not happen is disheartening. You placed what-if scenarios before the education of the students. We as parents count on the board to support our children's education. We count on you. The nonsense that was spoken at the last 2 emergency meetings and the regular board meeting 2 weeks ago was incredibly selfish. It was selfish that you allowed personal feelings, thoughts, and a small group of quote-unquote teachers get to you on a personal level. The original decisions to keep students remote until March 1st was, as Ms. Skinner said, a favor to the teachers. A favor? I was in pure shock. Not only have your decisions affected our students, but the selfish decisions impacted our teachers and families as well. The decisions you have made ultimately shows the lack of support you give to our students in their education. Now, as I don't always agree with Dr. Gibson, and while I will be that voice to speak up in all situations, I must say that she has been the heart and passion to getting the students back in person. I truly commend her and thank her for putting our children first. My biggest takeaway from last emergency meeting was there have been no cases from student to adult transmission, but there has been from adult to adult. That means our adults must do better. They need better behaviors. That was so impactful because it's proving that our children are not the spreaders and children are safe in school. Dr. Gibson provided the board over and over again facts and information. The board over and over again shot her down. Dr. Gibson, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for putting our children first. I've spent time networking with other families in the community, and it has been brought to my attention that there are students that are not able to return back in person from Jefferson Virtual Academy at the semester. I do understand that there are certain guidelines that you're trying to uphold, but that was definitely not the message that was given to parents at the beginning of the year. It was explained that parents and caregivers would have the option at semester time. We have students in our community that are failing Jefferson Virtual Academy, and they really need to be back in person. I ask, what is being done to help these students? Where there is a will, there is a way. Please help them. Lastly, I would like to thank the teachers, administrators, and all the service personnel that have gone above and beyond for our children during this time. I am truly talking about the ones that desired to be back in the classroom. They have had just as many disappointments and frustrations as the students and families. I can't imagine preparing for in-person to be changed to remote, back to in-person in the matter of days. The stress the board put on the students and families is just as bad as the stress they cause for teachers, administrators, and service personnel. And I'm beyond thankful that my children have the most amazing teachers. To my fellow parents and community members, thank you for working together and advocating for our children. Thank you for being a voice. I hope everyone is ready for students to return in person, because these students sure are ready. The excitement is so encouraging and a true blessing to see how much they all love to be in school. To everyone tomorrow, good luck.
All right. The consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I have a question about number 17,
So moved.
I believe.
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ogden. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Okay, now discussion. Go ahead, Dr. Joy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, number 17. I think it's number 17.
What's the question?
Yeah. Who asked that? I can't see who that
Yeah.
Ms.
is. That,
Lauren.
yeah. Can you explain why? Was she fired? Why is she rehired? Right?
That would have, whoops.
I'm sorry, is that the right one? I don't know. I don't understand. Is it number 17? There's a question about, I better
Talk about
pull
an
it up.
individual person in open session.
Correct.
Right. And I was talking about number 17. So should we have a session? I'm just trying to understand the comment on there. I can't pull it up.
Her start date's correct.
Restating the date. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's correction.
Why would you? Right. But the person was, I looked and I saw that the person had already been hired. So why are they being hired again?
It's a correction.
It says on their correction of the date.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. But if the person was already hired, then why would you need to add it again?
It's a correction to her start date.
Why was that? Why is that?
We cannot discuss an individual personnel record in public.
Ms. Skinner, can I ask that we table the agenda until the end of the meeting, and can we call for a session to have that discussion, and then we can come back out and vote on the agenda? Is that possible?
We can do that. So there's currently a motion on the floor for the consent agenda. Ms. Ogden, would you like to withdraw your motion?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw my motion and ask that we move the consent agenda to the end pending a possible executive session to discuss that and then come back in.
Okay. Thank you for withdrawing your motion. So we'll come back to the consent agenda, which brings us down to unfinished business, number 10. Action on approval of the district's copier bid for school year 2022. 2022, that just seems so far away.
It does, doesn't it? This evening, I'm asking the board to approve the committee selection and our recommendation for the copier bid for the district. We have 4 vendors which have submitted a viable bid, and the recommended bidder we have is Document Solutions, Inc., otherwise known as DSI, with a bid of $16,595 monthly and $199,140 annually. This is for unlimited copies and supplies excluding paper to our district copiers.
And Ms. White, how does that compare to the current bid that we have? Is it the same or more or less or?
It is in line with our current bid. In fact, it's a little bit less. This vendor is a repeat vendor. They have the current contract and they were the successful vendor for the upcoming contract.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there a motion to approve the district's copier bid for school year 2022 and award it to Document Solutions, Inc. for $16,595 monthly?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of approving the copier bid?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, action on approval for the addition of dual credit courses for school year 21-22. Mr. Dilly, I'm thinking that might be you. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Are you able to hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes, sir.
Had an incorrect setting, apologize. Setting from earlier today, but this evening I'm asking the board to continue supporting our work as we have been working or collaborating with our higher ed partners. We are bringing this evening 15 additional dual credit courses for your approval this evening to continue to expand our opportunities for our students. So this evening, I want to thank Kathy Farrow and her work. She's been coordinating a lot of this work, so just want to thank her for that. And would appreciate your approval this evening on these 15 additional dual credit courses.
All right, is there a motion to approve the additional dual credit courses for school year 21-22?
So move, Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. All right, before we vote, I have a quick question for you, Mr. Dilly. On this list, it has, for example, college algebra and college trigonometry. Is that different from what we currently offer through WVU? Like, are these specific to one institution or?
I'll have to defer to Kathy on that. I know some of the language varies between schools, but Kathy can speak specifically to the question at hand.
That would count actually the same as what it is offered during the normal school day for the college algebra and college trig. We currently do offer that through our access program during the normal school day at both high schools. This one actually, it probably wouldn't even need for you to have the approval, but I just wanted to be overly, I guess, prepared because Blue Ridge now offers the courses for college trig and college algebra, and Shepherd offers college algebra as well. So, you know, more and more of our partners are making that an opportunity or an option for our students to do outside the normal school day as well.
So are these institutions specific, or like French 1? I mean, is that something that a student could take through, you know, Marshall University, or does it have to be, I mean, Blue Ridge or Shepherd, or
Currently it needs to be through one of our partnering institutions.
And we currently have 4, correct? Blue Ridge, Shepherd, Potomac State, and WVU.
And WVU, Potomac State, and WVU, they're separate entities, but they also fall under some of the same guidelines that I've learned.
Kathy, I'm here too if you want me to speak on that, if you want. I just want to let you know because I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah, you're here. If you want to add anything, you're certainly always welcome. But
Kathy and I have been working on this particularly because my department works with WEVIS and different codes. So one of the things that we've been talking about and working with the state on is to learn more about this. And Kathy's been doing a fantastic job in doing that. And yes, they do have to be specific to that university because we have to have the standards that connect. So if it was a Marshall University, for instance, and let's say they have an online program, we would still need to look at their standards and make sure we do the crosswalk to say whether or not we could include that. So that's what Kathy's been working on and been collecting information from all of the different schools, the partnering schools.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Rowan. I appreciate that. Do any of the board members have any additional comments or questions?
Just quickly for our current guidelines in regards to the math, if you do the math 1-8 and then you do the math 2 and then math 3, potentially by junior year, is it understood from these, Kathy, that then you could do an algebra and a trigonometry then at the college level? Is that what I'm seeing with that?
Yes, you just have to have a math credit for four math credits to graduate. And some students may choose to stop after math 3. If they took math 1 or math 1-8, for example, in 8th grade, they could finish their 4th math credit at the end of their junior year. Now they can still take more dual enrollment courses, but there's only 4 math requirements required to graduate.
And just long-term for all of us, are we still seeing the same types of trends in the state for the math 1, 2, 3? Obviously, we haven't had testing due to COVID, but are we still seeing the trends of people staying with that predominantly, or are people going back to the algebra, trig, calc, pre-calc?
I would say that probably most counties have already gone back to traditional. There's like 5 of us counties left that have remained integrated. And our test scores have been some of the highest counties in years past. Of course, we can't count last semester because we didn't have anything, but it has been justifiably a good decision.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of wondered if we were still in that. I think you really need, 10 to 12 years of data to see how those kids work their way up through the system.
Right.
Really get a good picture.
The state has allowed the counties to make the decision to do traditional or integrated, and they're supporting both.
Okay. Are we gonna, well, I'm sure we will, but I was thinking the other good indicator of that will be the SAT scores. And
Correct.
to see how those SAT scores look via counties that do traditional and counties that do integrated. So as we move forward, I think that's probably the only indicator in some ways, because it's what's going to count long term. But of course, they may switch that test again too, but we'll see. So, okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for keeping track of it.
Again, but to keep on track here. So we have a motion to approve the additional dual enrollment classes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, information and action of early notification retirement incentive.
Thank you. The state provides early retirement notification incentive for classroom teaching positions for some of our professional positions. And we've had the privilege and the pleasure of our board supporting an early retirement incentive for positions outside of that area, including our service positions and the professional positions that do not fall within the state guidelines. So we have this evening the 2021 incentive, and just bringing it to you again and asking for your continued support with this incentive for all of our employees.
Thank you, Ms. Loring. Is there a motion to approve the early notification retirement incentive?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any questions or discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the early notification retirement incentive for all employees?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. So that brings us back to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss the item that needed to be discussed?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. All right, Dr. Gibb. All right, now we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Thank you very much.